Well, that don't look right. Hello my friends, and welcome to Tom's Tinkering and Adventures. Behind me I have a Yamaha Grizzly 450 that was generously donated to me by a sort of a friend of a friend situation here. I went to look at it. They asked if I could fix it, and I said I could probably fix it, but it's likely going to need a new frame. And I said it would involve a lot of time. So they asked if I'd just like to have it, and I guess I can't turn that down, so ended up taking it home. Now, to do this correctly, it probably is going to need a new frame, but I've had this sitting here for quite some time here, actually, a couple of months, thinking about what I want to do with it. And looking in here, we've got a broken upper A-arm, a really bent lower A-arm, a bent shock, and I don't know what else. Besides, of course, the bent frame and the bent front bumper and the bent plastics here. Who knows what else is going on. But what I am going to do is I'm going to strip off these broken items, strip off this front plastic, tell that dog of mine to stop barking. And I have a friend who lives a couple miles away. He has an oxyacetylene torch, and he has a hydraulic porta-power, which is sort of like a hydraulic ram. You can put different attachments on it. And I think we're going to try to straighten this thing out. This is not a racing quad. This is like a utility 4x4 hunting style quad. We're going to try to straighten it out and see if we can't get it to operate as is. I've already purchased some replacement parts. I've started selling some things in my garage on eBay, and with the proceeds of that I've purchased the upper A-arm, the lower A-arm, and that shock. So I'm hoping that after a day in his shop, we can bolt those items on and possibly have this thing operational. Now I am going to go ahead and put an asterisk up here and say operational. It may not be perfect, but maybe it'll be good enough to get around like a campsite, or use as a hunting quad, or to move things around here on the big property. So worst comes to worst, I've located a couple frames for about $400, and we can use this thing, and if I decide I want to do a frame swap later, we can do that. So I'm gonna hook up the truck to my trailer here, bring this up to the garage, and we'll start stripping it down. There's my new used parts. Lower A-arm, upper A-arm with ball joint, and shock. Oh, look at that. This one even came with one of those little plastic bits. Now, a couple notes on this thing. Didn't get a key with it. I've already picked the ignition to on. I threw a battery in here, cranked it over, and sprayed some carb cleaner in there, and it fired up. This thing's been sitting for a long time. It only has about 400 miles on it. I think it's a 2006 or 7, so one of the first years of the Grizzly 450. I can't remember what the model was before this, Kodiak. But I have full faith that it will run. Just gonna have to go through and do the carburetor. The winch, this cable was out about 10 or 15 feet, and with the battery on it, the winch didn't operate. There's a winch control up there. It was clicking back in a solenoid, but then I just hooked a battery directly up to here and rolled the winch in. So the winch appears to operate, just wasn't operating with the button. So first thing I want to try to do is figure out how to get this bumper off of here, maybe this front plastic, and then we'll start stripping everything else away. I may not be one of the neatest garage guys out there, but if you're taking something apart and you don't know how long it's going to be apart, or even if you're only taking it apart for a day or two, it's not a bad idea to save some of these plastic bags, or, you know, I keep them around. I have bags full of bags in my garage, but put all your fasteners for each item in a bag and labeled them. It's gonna make putting this thing back together a lot easier. Okay, with the plastic taken off the front, we can see we've got this radiator is pushed in considerably, but it doesn't look like it's broken. It's twisted a little bit. So it looks like the mount down here is twisted. Looks like we got some buckling right here. And this is just the obvious stuff right now. So I think what I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna pull the shock off, take this broken upper control arm off, maybe see if I can get this ball joint out of here and the lower control arm, and just see if the new items are even close to bolting in there, just so it'll be a little bit more mobile. But it's quite obvious. You can see that this front differential is shoved back. This is I think it's just like a plastic guard cover for this thing, and you can see it's supposed to line up right there, and that's shoved down and back a considerable amount. So who knows, maybe this frame is completely hashed and we won't be able to fix it, but you know what? This is the kind of stuff that's just kind of fun to mess around with sometimes. Shady, look at that. Okay, I pulled the skid plate off the bottom here. Look at that, nice kerchunk there. Remove this lower A-arm. And let's grab this new one. Oh, it's all wrapped up. I want to put them side by side. Let me unwrap it. It's really not as odd a shape as I thought it was. But I don't believe it's going to go in here anywhere close. Oh no, look at that. Put that one on there. That one is... yeah. So that's a no-go for sure. And look at the crazy angle of this. And that's mostly likely due to the fact that, you know, we're not connected at all up here on the top. What if this top one will bolt up? Should we try it? Yeah, let's try it. It's got to come off anyway. The new upper control arm fit right in, but things are not as they should be. This shock kind of looks in line with the one on the other side, but as you can see, we're pushed back a considerable amount here. That's likely due to all this being jammed up in here. So this is going to have to get spread out, which should push it this way and line this up. But it is a lot better in line now with this. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, this thing has a little bit of give. I'm just going to put a bolt in that, pop a nut back into this, put that lower one back in, and drop it down. As you can see, it's a beautiful sunset here. I got to strip down a fair amount, bring it over to my buddy's house tomorrow. I'll strip it down a little bit more, bring it over to my buddy's house tomorrow, and see if we can't get some semblance of order to this thing. I don't know. It's probably not worth it, but what the heck, let's give her a shot. Otherwise, everything has to come off of this thing and put a new frame under it. New day, new you, right? There you go. Okay, I removed the front differential here, the exhaust pipe, loosen up this brake assembly. It's going to be interesting to see if we can make this work. The drive shaft, as you can see, is hitting here, so we're going to have to clearance this up. All this has to move forward. Got to take this kink out, so all that kind of has to go up and up that way. And this whole thing is kind of tweaked in. So I have no idea. I'm not a frame repair man, and I don't know if my buddy has done this before or not, but hey, we both crazy enough to give it a shot. So I'm probably pretty close to stripped down to where we need. Maybe I will remove this snorkel or whatever here, just to give us a little bit more clearance in there, and then we'll be ready to bring it over. I'm getting a healthy pile of parts over here though. We got a ram in here, spreading this apart, and we got a little bit better. Let me show you. So this A-arm is getting close to, lower A-arm is getting close to fitting, and we're close to the upper and lower. It still needs some more tweaking. And the way we're doing it here, this thing's never gonna be perfect. We're not body people here. We're just abusing it, hammers and stuff. Trying to get this thing here, this upper arm, back a bit more. And then the same with the lower arm. So we're gonna put some heat down here and then try to put the press in across there, get it set up. Fire. We'll try not to burn the neighborhood down. Well, we made a pretty fair mess of this here, but we got a little bit better. This wheel, which was rubbing into here, now has a fair amount of space. Our biggest problem is the way this is all tweaked in here, and you can see we've abused it quite a bit. Remember, this frame was already damaged, so this isn't ideal, but we're just trying to see if we can get this thing to operate. Our problem is we can't get this rear A-arm mount, so my crazy friend Mike is gonna just make some new mounts. So we're planning on cutting this out. We're gonna make a new mount. It's gonna come out about an inch or so, maybe farther. And that ought to be enough that we can get this thing back together enough to test it and make sure everything works. Decide if we want to leave it as is or get a new frame. This is redneckery at its finest.
Right?
But it ought to get us mobile and operational. All right, it might not be pretty, but we got everything back together as far as the suspension, the transmission, everything's hooked up. All I really have left to do is to, I'm gonna break the bead on this tire. You can see there's a bunch of rocks in it because it keeps losing air. I'm not sure if that's the reason why or just because there's a hole in it, but I'm gonna break the bead and clean that tire up. Remount the tire. We'll drop it back on 4 wheels, and I have the carburetor removed. I'm cleaning that. So I'm hoping that we're gonna drive this thing off the trailer. Whether it works good or not is gonna be another story, but I think we can drive it off the trailer. Something doesn't feel right on this front differential to me. It's like all notchy feeling and kind of crappy, but I don't know if that's just the way it normally is. I don't think so. It's starting to look like a quad again. Look at the tire clearance on this side. This is gonna make you all laugh. Versus the tire clearance on this side. About 2 or 3 inches less. That wheel is still pushed back quite a bit. But it's gonna be operational, I believe. We'll see. Carburetor's installed. And let me show you a, if you have something like this that's broken down and you don't know when you're gonna get to it, the smartest thing you can do is to drain the carburetor and drain the fuel tank. Look at the fuel that came out of that thing. That is just terrible. Now, as always, smell-o-vision, I wish was a thing because it smells terrible. I'd love to share it with y'all. I'm gonna rinse this tank out with some fresh fuel. We'll add a quart or so, and then we'll see if this thing starts. Ghetto fabulous, redneck fabulous, I don't know what this is, but the battery I have laying around has opposite terminals, so that doesn't even fit in the box. That tank is such a mess that I had to stick this old tank I've got here. I don't have a key, so that's been picked open. But we are lighting up here. We've got fuel in the carburetor. The choke is there, and I believe the start button is here. We're on run. Holy smokes! That's literally the first time I touched that thing. Crap, that's amazing. It fired right up. All right. I need to mess with it a little bit, get it running. But this thing hasn't had life for like 10 years. I turned the idle up. I probably can turn it down after it runs for a little bit. But we're running without choke right now. This thing only has 49 hours, 460 miles. Well, I gotta know if it's gonna move under its own power. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to pull the truck forward so we can drive it off the ramp. Hopefully. It's been idling for about a minute, maybe 30 seconds to a minute. I actually bumped it down considerably. I might even be able to bump it down some more. We got some smoke coming off of some stuff here. I think that's just, you know, things I've touched and old grease and that sort of stuff. There you go. I don't know how I'm gonna ride this thing. I guess standing up. But let's see. Let's see if it moves under its own power. Ugh. Let's see. This is, I believe that's in high gear. Oh my goodness. We're moving. Yep, it's in high gear. I'm gonna, uh-oh, we died. Let's put it in neutral. We need more idle. It moves. Well, I'm gonna set you up and we'll take it out in the yard and see what happens. This thing runs amazingly well. Fan kicked on a couple times, so I know the cooling system is working. The shifter needs some adjustment. Now, I've already driven it up and down the driveway and in the yard a little bit, but I'll take you with me on a little trip here. It ain't gonna be easy, but we'll do her anyway. I can sit down way back here. The shift linkage needs some work. Actually, it's working better now. But I can't get it to go into park. Oh wait, now it might. Oh, there we go. Maybe it just needed to be loosened up. Yeah, see, it's sticky again. Okay, there's high. Rear brake is making a lot of noise. No hands. It tracks pretty straight. It turns really good to the right. It doesn't turn so good to the left. There's a right turn. Now here's a left turn. But it doesn't pull. thing's amazing. Now let me see if the tail light works. I don't have the headlights hooked up. Of course the tail light works. Of course it does. Probably even has a brake light. Oh, it does. Look at that. This thing's amazing. Although that gap is something. And I'm gonna mess around with stuff like this. This is the headlight surround. You can see it's all bashed in from where this thing was beat up, but maybe some time with the heat gun, kind of twisting that will straighten it out. Same with this. I'll try to put some heat on it, see if I can't bring that back out. And what other piece? And that one's not in bad shape. This is in really bad shape. I don't know what to do with that. Our frame straightening wasn't ideal. I mean, we've got it all in one piece and everything works, which is nice, but it's still not right, obviously. It doesn't look as obvious now. Well, especially with that mangled up front bumper off of there, but it's obvious if you know what you're looking at, you know, that space. But it drives okay. I wouldn't take this thing hauling ass, but I don't really know as if it does haul ass. It's a 450 four-wheel drive utility quad, so maybe it only goes 30 or 40 miles an hour to begin with, which I mean, feeling it just in the yard, it felt pretty stable, but I'd have to get it up to a little bit more speed to determine. But we got it operational, and that's kind of what I was hoping for. Tested everything. I don't know what I want to do with this thing. I've got a very small amount of money into it. I spent about $100 on the replacement A-arms, upper and lower A-arms, and that shock. And that's really all I have into it besides some time. Yeah, look at that differential too. The differential is pointing down on that side and up on this side. Yeah, that whole frame is twisted that way as well, which probably won't lead to a very good life as far as the, the drive shafts and that sort of stuff is concerned. So a replacement frame, if this thing is to live on, a replacement frame is the way to go. But we know that everything works now, which was kind of the premise behind spending a little bit of time to fix this up. So, but leave some comments. Tell me how dumb I am for making this thing work, or how smart I am for making it work for the amount of money I have into it. It's a good running machine. If you needed something just to roll around on your farm or ranch or small property, maybe it's fine the way it is. If you're not going to put hundreds and hundreds of miles on it, just move some trailers, something like that, probably be a good rig. And I don't really have a use for it like that, but it's still fun. I could take it out to the desert. It would be a good around camp vehicle. So maybe I'll hold on to it for that. But give me some comments, give me some ideas what to do with it. If you're digging what I'm putting out, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and if you're not already a subscriber, please consider doing so. Thank you very much for watching. Get out there and find your adventure. Adios.